and if I'm good, and I'm bam and then down because I'm bird, not on bed I'm doing and get down bird, I'm bed bam. Little bit I got me done that I'm bird, that I'm banged, but I'm moving about it.
Wait, am I supposed to have an intro? I thought we had an intro beat that took care of that now.
Well, you still have to intro after the beat. You can't just we can't just dive right into a topic.
Oh. So it's post intro.
Yeah, intro level 2, because the song just gets the people going.
The song gets the people going, and then we slide right in and say, "Smash that subscribe button." We also say, "What up, Ms. T? What's up?"
Don't forget, you're Steve and I'm Bob.
Oh,
Tell people
I'm Bob.
who you're talking to.
Yep, I'm Bob. He's Steve. Bob and Steve.
We
Bob
bob
and
and
weave.
We bob and weave through all the complex topics of America and our generation.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely are. We bob and weave through it. You know, we're super educated, like on everything we talk about. We're experts in all fields.
In all fields, every single one of them.
And we assume full liability for our words and actions. So,
full disclaimer, the opposite of everything we just said is true.
Speaking of fake news and sensationalism, I don't believe it. Have you seen this stuff about how Tim Walz basically put a 95% tax on nicotine, so Zyn but nicotine products in Minnesota? Is that true?
I did not have not heard that. He seems like a pretty far out there kind of guy, though. So,
not that I still use any of those types of products, but just kidding.
Not a Zen master.
I'm just kidding. I know my life insurance policy holder is on this call, so I was just joking.
Oh man, you know what? I talked to another guy who does life insurance, and I'm not going to say his name because of what I'm about to say about him. But he basically said, just you don't need to tell your doctor what kind of drugs you do. It's not a requirement. You don't have to. And in the terms of life insurance, you probably shouldn't tell him. Mm-hmm. Because the doctor is required by law to share everything with the life insurance company that they've taken notes on.
Well, another guy, different than who you're talking about, I think, but I was buying life insurance policy. Like, this is like 9 years ago now, 8 years ago maybe. But to get the policy, I actually had like somebody come out to my house and take my blood, and came back that it tested positive for nicotine because like a month prior I had smoked a cigarette at a party.
They're really strict on nicotine. I don't know why exactly nicotine is their main focus, but it's like that's on every application for every life insurance. And it's like, have you ever smoked nicotine? And it will change your premium amounts.
Oh yeah. My premium was, and still is to this day, double. Because after that I had a hip surgery. So now, you know, I don't know. And then I turned 30 and it's like, well, now I'll never get a policy cheaper than that. So I still have a nicotine user policy actually. Wow. And okay, it excludes tobacco caused issues, but like I don't use it. So it's like not really going to be an issue that's excluded. But
did you have hip surgery?
Twice, yeah.
You got screws or plates in there or both or?
It's actually more like have you seen the movie Transformers? It's like actual Autobot parts. So no, yeah, it's no, I had my labrum cut and repaired. Like the torn stuff was cut off and basically just kind of left behind. But then the second one, they actually removed the entire labrum, and because I was still having issues, so they removed the entire labrum and gave me a cadaver labrum. So I've got another guy.
Do you know who this other person that's inside you is?
There's another guy inside me at all times.
Do you know their name? Did he take you out to dinner first?
You know, I don't like to ask names. I like the anonymity of it. And
met him in a dark room after you took some drugs.
Black market, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it doesn't have transformium in it or anything like that. It's just legit human tissue.
So it's the tissue that's in you. It's not like they took out a piece of bone.
The labrum tears when you have like this is your femur, your femur is supposed to be like spherical where it touches the hip, and the labrum is like the soft stuff between. But some people have what's called a bone spur on the ball of the femur, and that can be caused a lot of times. It's very common for people who played sports like soccer, basketball, and football during their puberty years, which those are like the three sports I played multiple times per day for years in my adolescence. Um, so yeah, it's caused by like, juking, which, you're doing in all those sports. You're quickly changing direction.
So
And that's,
you weren't ever very good at juking. I remember you being
oh,
a straight
please.
line guy.
Oh, please. I'm slow as heck. What are you talking about? That was all about. No, you're totally right. I didn't do that. I didn't juke either. But when you change direction, in general, like when your femur is growing, it's sensitive to that and can be compressed during that direction shift and causes a bone spur.
Well, that's interesting.
Yep. So that spur just like shreds that labrum, and then the torn labrum inside there is super painful. Quarterbacks there's only two places in your body that have labrum: your shoulder and your
The
femur
ball and
and hip.
socket, right? Well, I guess
Huh?
isn't
No.
the top of your head, isn't that also a ball and socket joint?
I don't know if the spinal cord has a
Or
ball.
is it just really complex? I thought it was the point at which your skull attaches to your neck is a ball and socket.
Maybe, and there might be labrum there too. That's a good point. I've
But
always said.
that's probably not used as vigorously. You're not
Mhm.
juking with your head.
Right. Unless you're the Night at the Roxbury guys.
Oh yeah, they probably got some head labrum issues.
But yeah, dude, like labrum is not the same thing as what's it called? Like ligaments or cartilage. It's like its own thing. Um,
Huh.
so it doesn't
Can you fix the bone spur?
Oh yeah. So the way they do the surgery is, it's actually arthroscopic for shoulders and for hips. And what that means is there's a camera that goes in a tiny hole, like at the end of like a stick, and then there's a second tiny incision that they make to put the tools in, and the tools are all like long, skinny, so they can kind of control it off by the camera sight. So I have very little scarring, but they basically dislocate your femur from the hip. I assume they like
So they can get to the spur.
Yeah, so they separate it, like dislocate it, and then that way the labrum is now completely exposed, and the bone and the femur bone is also exposed separate. There's like an inch or two of separation, whatever, and they sand the spur down as much as possible, and then they like all the labrum that is like shredded, they just cut it off. So it's kind of like whatever labrum was still healthy, they leave it, but anything that's like torn or shredded or choppy, they just shave that off completely because that's what causes the pain. And then, theoretically, you should be able to, like, you put it back together, and where there isn't labrum, it's still like the labrum that's left still bridges the ball of the femur. So it's, most people, like 95% of people, when they have the shredded stuff removed, it just goes back to normal in terms of pain level because the spur is gone and it stops shredding. But for me, it was so shredded. And he told me too, when I woke up, he's like, once I got in there, it's like He's like, 95% of people need the first surgery and that's it. But you are like 50-50 on if it's going to prevent further pain. And my bone spur actually grew back because
wow.
I went back to playing sports and it re-aggravated the scar tissue on the bone or whatever it was. And it didn't grow back as big, but it like a little bit grew back. So the second time they shaved the shit of it, like shaved it way down the spur. And then they put in like just they took off all the labrum and put a brand new one in. But he did tell me that the person it came from was a lot bigger than me. I don't necessarily remember if that meant taller or heavier or what, but yeah, for the first like 2 years, I could tell it was just sort of tight in there, but at least it didn't feel like freaking shredding, because that's what it feels like. You're getting shredded, like there's something in there scratching everything, and like but with needles. It doesn't it doesn't feel like a sandpaper. It feels like a freaking
taking nails and just scratching your
it feels like
your
100
body part.
tiny needles. Yeah.
Wow. And so do you still have some pain with that, or does it just feel tight?
Yeah, no, I actually do. I actually do have some pain still, and but I've found ways of coping with it. So, I go get like every year and a half. You can do it every 6 months, which most like athletes would, but I do it every like 2 years probably. But you get a injection of what's it called? That steroid thing.
Cortisone?
Yeah. So I get an
I thought it was
injection
just
of
like numbing. I thought that was like a numbing agent.
Well, it's a steroid that it's an anti-inflammatory steroid. So it what it does is it injects some semi-permanent strengthening in there that prevents inflammation, like on a long-term basis, like 6 months or 6 to 12 months. I also have noticed too that like dairy intake makes it worse. And then this is the craziest part, but I can tell you if it's going to rain in 2 hours or 3 hours, because my hip is like, that's when the pain's the worst, when it's about to rain. It's crazy.
What's the atmospheric pressure changes?
Yeah.
So I've heard of people doing that. They have bad knees or just ultra sensitive to pressure.
Yep. Do you ever, I don't know if this is related to my semi-potential tinnitus, that it's hereditary, but a lot of my family members have tinnitus, but can you ever hear it or feel it in your eardrums when the pressure changes too?
No.
Yeah. I can like feel
that.
it.
My ears pop. Like, when you're driving down a big mountain or going up in a plane.
Yeah. Boise has, because we're in a valley up here, we have what's called inversion, where the pressure like in the wintertime, the pressure will switch. So during the summer, the pressure is like keeping the air in the valley. But then when the temperature changes and into the winter, the air pressure pushes air out of the valley. So it's like in the summertime, if there's a fire in the valley, the pressure of the air like holds the smoke in here for so long. But then when we have fires in the winter, the smoke like leaves the valley immediately. Salt Lake has the same thing. But they'll tell you in the news, it'll be like the inversion occurred yesterday, where the pressure finally like permanently shifted for the season.
Like the cold air got out or something.
Yeah, but I always know when it's going to be in the news the next morning, because I feel it. It's like painful for like 2 minutes.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I can feel it for like 2 minutes, and which makes me sound like I'm exaggerating and like I'm crazy, because no one else has ever told me they feel it, but I can like feel it in my head. It's wild.
That's weird. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah. And that didn't start happening until my hip things. So it's like, maybe I just became more sensitive to it for some reason we don't understand yet, but all right. Enough about my shitty hip and my old man syndrome. So Mr. Tennyson here, our good friend, Robbie T 1114.
Yeah.
He just got back from the GC, which is what Snoop Dogg calls the Grand Canyon. So tell us about the trip, dude. How was it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of a long time coming. When I drove out to California 12 years ago, one of the stops I made was in Flagstaff, which is about an hour and a half south of the Grand Canyon. And my dad's a big tree hugger. He uh he got a forestry degree in college, and that very
Forgot
strange
about
thing
that.
to do. But he's all about big trees and pines and going up to Sequoia. And we used to vacation in the Smoky Mountains because it's covered in trees there. And so Flagstaff was pretty cool to walk to drive through. And I stayed the night there because it's sort of like a mountain town, but it's still city enough where there's stuff to do. But there's pine trees everywhere because it's pretty high up. And so I remember I told my dad when I drove through, he was like, "You got to come see this because it's like it's pretty warm and it's a mountain town." Now he lives in Lake Arrowhead, which is an hour 30 minutes away from Southern California, and it's a mountain town. But Flagstaff was just kind of one of those things that was on our bucket list, and he had never been in the Grand Canyon, and I had never been in the Grand Canyon, so we just kind of made it a point that we were going to go at some point together. And so we went. I've been scheduling this trip for like a year and a half because we just finally decided we're going to do it. Let's plan it. And so we found out that October is the best time to go because it just gets way too hot up there. And I'm so glad we went the week that we did, not the week before, because it was like 95 the week before we went there, and it was high of 80 when we were there. So it was pretty nice, and it was warm, which is great. But it was a little bit hot if you were just outside the whole day. But yeah, so we spent 2 days in Flagstaff, and then we spent 3 days in Grand Canyon. And we stayed just outside the park in a decent hotel that had decent food and a bowling alley and like an arcade and stuff. So I played some big buck hunt while I was there. Good time. And then we went into the park every day just to kind of check it out. And the joke is that we're calling it we went to go see the big ditch. So that's kind of just a giant ditch in the ground. And I mean, essentially that's what it is, a big ditch, but it formed over millions of years. But we were really there for 2.5 days. So the first day we got there was just in time for sunset. The next day we went and did one of the hikes they're both on the South Rims where we stayed, but one was on the eastern side and the next one was on the western side of the South Rim. And we did 2 hikes, 2 days, I think it was about 2,000 feet elevation change on each hike and about 4 miles on each hike.
But you're sore after that.
Yeah, my legs are pretty sore. What's interesting about where my legs are sore is it's my ankle. And it's like I feel like I didn't have enough support in my ankle. So it's like all the parts around my ankle. It's not like my calf, but it's like I didn't have enough support in my foot to kind of stabilize walking on rocks. Because there are paths, but they're not like paved paths. It's you're walking on rocks and logs and dirt and this kind of stuff. So I had the hiking shoes, but it just didn't support it enough, I guess.
Did you have like trail run type shoes, or did you have boots,
No,
like hiking
full on
boots?
hiking boots.
Oh wow.
Ankle high hiking boots, yeah. And so we just did, pretty short hikes in comparison to what people can do there. I think that's kind of on my bucket list now is to go and do the rim to rim hike, or there's like a 3 day, like a kayaking trip where you can do that down the river. But the rim to rim hike is like 8 or 9 hours. I think some people do it in 2 days. They'll go down to the bottom and come back up the next day. But it's just enormous trip. Like it's so much elevation change, and it's so long and wide. It's just crazy to do it all. And there was some guy we saw did it. He got done with his hike right at the same time we did, which was about 2 or 3 o'clock, and he did rim to rim by himself, just him in a backpack. And it was not a big backpack, and it was and he was older, like 60, and he just beast moded the whole way since 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, but I'm trying to
do
do
the whole thing in
rim
12 hours.
What was that?
You said you did the whole thing in 12 hours?
I think that's what it was. Yeah, they said, well, we like Nicole didn't do the whole hike with me, so she was up there hanging out waiting for us to get done, and met this lady who had a dog, and she was talking about her husband. And so we got everything from the wife who was waiting for her husband to finish doing the rim to rim. And I mean, it's pretty wild that he did it by himself, but maybe that's just the fastest way to do it. But he was definitely in shape. But it seemed like, I think she said he left at 3 o'clock, and it was about 3 o'clock when we got done.
Wow. That would be freaking awesome to do. I can't imagine what the views. I mean, you went down pretty far to the bottom, right? I mean, are the views from down there like crazier
So
than
I
the
went
views at the top?
Yeah, I mean, there's just different lookout spots because I mean, it's all crazy. It all looks ridiculous. And what I kept saying is, I just don't understand how this got here. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, even all the things that I've tried to learn about geology and like weather and water and erosion and all this stuff, it just doesn't really make any sense because it's so
Aliens.
big.
Aliens.
Maybe, dude, it's so big. And there actually we meant to watch this National Geographic about the Grand Canyon that we need to like tells you how it was formed, but my dad saw something and it was about like it was half water erosion and half earthquakes pushing the rock up. And so it used to be somewhat flat, and then there's a bunch of earthquakes that caused the rocks to form up, and that pushed and created the Colorado River, which then caved out all of the narrow ways throughout the Grand Canyon, and like enormous amounts of water over millions of years made it this way. So it's both, you know, water erosion and rocks forming up at the same time. But it's a really big ditch.
Awesome. So it was Nicole, Elaine, and your dad and Heidi.
Yep.
And everybody made the whole hike.
No.
Except Nicole.
No, it was just me and Heidi actually did the whole hike. So
Oh,
the
wow.
first day we split off into two groups. We got to what was called aaaaand Point, and that was just like a cool lookout that they had a sign at. And then it was only like, I want to say 1.25 miles to get to that point. And so Heidi and I were just kind of like, I'm definitely not done. If I'm turning around now, I'm going to be disappointed. So me and her went down probably another mile, and then we headed back up after that just because we weren't really that prepared. I actually ran on water with like a 1/4 mile left. So I was kind of cutting it. I'm glad we turned back when we did it. And the second day we split up into 3 groups because Nicole and Elaine were pretty sore because they just don't do a whole lot of walking with what they do in their daily activities. So they did about 1.5 miles. And then me, Heidi, and Roger went about another mile. And then Roger decided to turn back. And Heidi and I went we tried to go another 1/2 mile after that. We almost went a whole mile on accident just because there was no sign at what our stopping point was. Because it just said at the switchback turn. And usually they have like a sign like at aaaaand Point. There was a sign that said aaaaand Point. So we were like looking for a sign that said like the switchback turn, but there was no sign. So we saw like the next stop coming up was a restroom. We're like, if we can see the restroom, we probably missed where we were supposed to stop. So we turned around and went back. But yeah, that was the longer hike and it was more elevation. The first one was, I think it was steeper. We didn't go as far, but it was a lot of up and down over, you know, those 3.5 miles.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Sick.
I would say aside from the Grand Canyon, the coolest things that we did in Flagstaff, they have a really cool observatory where they discovered Pluto, the Lowell Observatory. It was kind of funny because they make it seem like this super awesome thing. You know, they discovered all these things, but really what they did is some guy who had a bunch of money from his family who made like not a steel mill. It was like corn, like a wheat mill. And so he was a trust fund kid, traveled the world, decided he liked looking at stars, and then he got some money from one of his family members, bought this 35-foot telescope, and he looked at it and looked at Mars a whole bunch and came up with the idea that there was aliens on Mars because there was water canals on Mars. He could see them in the telescope. Obviously that was wrong. And they also discovered Pluto there, and said, oh, we got a new planet. Now, not a planet. So this observatory is famous for saying there's aliens on Mars, which there's not, and discovering a planet that's no longer a planet.
Well, I heard it's back to being a planet now.
Is it? I don't know.
But they're calling it a dwarf planet.
Okay.
But, you know, dwarves are people too.
That's true.
Can I say that?
I think so. But the coolest thing that happened while we were there is we went back at night and they had all their telescopes on. So we're looking at stuff and I saw Saturn. Like I looked at Saturn and it was like a little ball with rings around it, and I saw it in a telescope. It was not a computerized telescope. It was the one that they created 100 years ago.
Wow.
And I looked at Saturn with my eyeball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane, dude?
I was like, as all the stuff that we did, like that's the thing that's going to stick with me forever. Is like I saw Saturn.
That is awesome. Do they have in that area? Do they have like light pollution rules? I know a lot of parts of Arizona.
Yes, it's the America's first dark city.
Yeah.
because the main reason the city formed was because of this observatory. And when they first started this, the guy, the Lowell guy, he went there. There was 800 people in there, and they were all like they were what's the word? They chopped down wood and shipped it across the country. That's what they did. That's the only reason people were there. And so
Loggers.
he put this observatory there because there was not a whole lot of light pollution, and it was pretty high up, and it was dry. So it was dry, so there's no whole lot of clouds, pretty high up, and no light pollution. And so because that's kind of how the town got formed, they put in regulations on how much light pollution you can have. So when you go around the city, it's pretty dark, and they have like this yellow light, and they're all face down,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's not a whole lot of light pollution there.
Yep. Yeah.
And I say the second thing aside from Grand Canyon that we did was went to a place called Bearizona. Have you heard of that one?
I feel like, is that like a bear rescue or something? I feel like I have heard of that, but I can't remember what it is.
I don't know if I'd call it a rescue, but like apparently they're not like endorsed by the Zoological Association, so they do some strange stuff there. But yeah, they have like a bunch of strange animals you can go see. But what the main attraction is, you drive through their captivities, and one of them is like a black bear captivity. And you're just driving through, and there's black bears like 2 feet from your car, and you just drive by, and you can see a black bear. Yeah, but they had so many bears. I probably saw 24 bears on that drive.
Oh wow! Is it like in a big acreage?
I mean, we drove through the whole thing going 15 miles an hour in about 30 minutes. So it's not like enormous, and they all have like separate captivities. So there was like 6 bears in this one, 6 bears in this one. They also had a buffalo one and a couple elk ones. But yeah, I mean, it's a big place, but I wouldn't, it's not like the safari thing at San Diego.
Yeah, I've been to that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. You guys see some elk up close?
Yeah. No, there's some people that were petting them, even though the sign said your window closed. It's like an 8-year-old girl was hanging out of her car like petting an elk. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's started.
It was a white pickup truck. You can guess what kind of stickers were on it.
Yeah, there was it was in the news like 3 months ago, like the Game of Thrones, one of the photographers or I mean cinematographers or whatever, but like a higher up person on the or not on the cast, but on the crew got freaking eaten by a lion for opening the window and she wasn't supposed to in one of those drive-through safaris in Africa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we kind of had our cameras out like thinking something crazy was about to happen because it's just 8-year-old girl, hanging out with an elk, and specifically said, "Don't open your windows."
Yeah, and elk are freaking aggressive, dude. These ones
weren't. They were totally fine with being pet, but wow, yeah. There was also a bunch of elk inside the Grand Canyon National Park that were not afraid of humans. Like they would walk in front of the street and just there's a car. Okay, I'll move when I'll move.
Quick funny story. When I was on that road trip in 2017, I went like all over the Pacific Northwest and did some time in Canada. And outside of Banff, like 2 hours outside of Banff, which is like the main tourist place to go see the mountains and wildlife and stuff. But it's like so overrun with tourists, and I hate that stuff. And but 2 hours outside of that is Jasper National Park, which has a tiny downtown also called Jasper. And they have the light pollution rules. And I was in the bar one night and talking to the locals, and one of the guys told me, he's like, yeah, we don't have mountain lions here because mountain lions hate the smell that comes out of human bodies when humans eat dairy. So apparently we emanate an odor that's undetectable to us, but when we drink or eat cheese, drink milk or eat cheese, like disgusting odor comes out. Like big cats hate it. And so big cats don't come in the town in Jasper, even though there's tons of food for them. They hate the smell so much they stay away. So the elk actually will congregate in the city at night, in the downtown area at night, because they know they're safe. They know that the cougars are never there. And so they warn you, though. The people will warn you, like,
cougars are there, but the cougars aren't there. Or were there no cougars at all?
There were cougars, but there weren't cougars, if you know what I mean. No, I'm just kidding. It was a town full of dudes, Canadian dudes. Your typical like outdoorsy town, you know, like 6 dudes in camo at the local bar having
Everybody wearing Patagonia.
No. We're talking like cheaper. No, this was like the Canadian version of rednecks, you know, because I never like to go to the tourist bars. I would go to like the local dive bar where the locals actually like, you know, the tourists go in, walk in, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to be here," and they leave. I like to go to that place.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, they were telling me don't touch the elk. You know, there are signs everywhere, don't touch the elk, and they'll like charge you if you get too close. And I'm walking home from the bar, and I'm just walking down the sidewalk, and all of a sudden I just hear a like, and I'm like, whoa, you know, it's dark sky town, so there's no lights. I'm like, oh my god, what is going on? What is around me? I flip my flashlight on real quick on my phone, and there's just this mom elk and this baby elk right next to me, dude. Like as far away, like 3 feet away, is just freaking elk, and didn't have antlers because it was a mom. But
and you were just like,
it was laying down. It was laying down in the grass right next to the sidewalk. But it's like, you know, its arms were like folded, you know, in front of it. So it's like little elbows were like right on the edge of the concrete, and then its head was in the air, right on the, but like in line with the plane of the edge of the concrete. And I'm in the middle of this 3-foot sidewalk, so I'm literally looking at this elk from like 2 feet away as she starts to get up. Like it's a big chore for them to stand up.
I'm sure. Yeah, they're like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah. So by the time she like started to kind of like, you know, and I just like ran into the middle of the street, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not messing with you. I'm not messing with you. I'm like hammered. I'm like, no, I'm not messing with you. Don't get up. Don't get up. Don't mind me. And then I just started like walking briskly, but I was walking down the middle of the street because I'm like, I'm not going to be on the sidewalk for the rest of this walk home. It was like a half mile to get back to my hotel.
Wow.
But yeah, dude, it was like face to face with it. It was my height laying down, you know, I was like looking in her eyes straight.
Yeah. One of the elk we saw at Arizona, like if they don't like, if they're not like attacking and using their horns a lot or their antlers, they get really big. Like this one, the antlers we saw, it was probably 7 feet long and like had 6 different branches on it. And it was just like, okay, that doesn't look healthy. It looks like those people who have their nails that grow out like a foot long. Like that's what it looked like. But I was not messing with that thing. And of course, that one is the one where all the females were around that elk, as opposed to, and there was another male on the other side of the fence, and the 2 males were just staring at each other. Like, don't you come near my women.
Yeah. Yeah. On that same trip, I saw a male challenge another one. And it was very short. He kind of ran away because he wasn't near as big as the other one. But then the bigger one that like fended him off, no problem, just immediately mounted one of the females. It was like a show of dominance to the other male. Like, nope, I'm doing her right now.
Wow. Seats taken.
But it was like 40 females and this one male. Maybe some younger like kids of his that were male looking, but who knows? But dude, the noise they make is crazy.
Yeah. Do you think that's how humans were before we were like civilized?
No, I think they still are, dude.
But not really.
No.
Now it's about
probably.
money.
Did you know dolphins, like the female dolphins that are promiscuous end up having a way better success rate of their babies living to adulthood? Because if they're slutty, then all the males don't know whose baby it is. So they won't kill it. Right. They all take care of it. Oh yeah. Infanticide is common amongst dolphins. Like males that just show up to a pod of females will just try to kill the babies so that because when dolphins, because when dolphins have a baby, they don't have another baby for like, it's something like 3 years or 6 years or something. So they won't even mate. But if they don't have a baby, then they like, their body like starts having the cycle again and they like are ready to mate. So the males that like find a pod of females or whatever, they'll kill, they try to kill the babies so that the females will mate with them. But if the female pod has like a bunch of males around, it's like advantageous to be promiscuous so that the males don't kill the babies. Isn't that crazy?
Very interesting.
Yeah. Sounds like a fraternity sorority party, right?
Yeah. I don't know what fraternity you were a part of.
I didn't. I'm just kidding. I would never participate in such
Sounds like a Diddy party.
animalistic behavior. Yeah, it does. Dude, isn't that wild? I mean, there's all this stuff with that and Epstein's list and all this stuff. It still feels like somebody's in control of the narrative and like preventing something from coming out that would just, we're like one little thing away from this, all of this unraveling, I feel like.
I think you might have sent this to me. Somebody sent me a clip that said, all the people that are involved in it, but not quite as heavily as Diddy was, they're settling their cases. And part of the agreement with the settling is that they can't make their name public as part of the Diddy case.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think whoever sent it to me said there's like 25 cases that have been settled so that people's names won't go public as if they were a part of this organization.
Smart. Like a plea deal or like an out of court settlement?
An out of court settlement. I mean, that's the goal with all cases, is to settle before you actually get to court.
Yeah. I learned something, speaking of court, I learned something this week that was really important. We had a little case at the school, at the preschool, and we get money from the subsidized government program for kids that their parents qualify. And there was like an ambiguous term in the code. It was saying child care services provided. And my argument was, well, to provide means to make available. So we made the services available to this family. The fact that they didn't attend, is that's not what the code says. And but
can you provide something to no one?
Well, the example I gave is if you schedule a massage and then you don't show up, you still have to pay for that hour that person was made available, right?
But did that person provide a massage?
Well, they got the oils warmed up and ready, which is a utility cost. The masseuse charges an hourly rate, is paid an hourly rate to the parlor, by the parlor. So the parlor incurred these costs to provide it or to make it available. And then you pay in advance before you come. You have to get a appointment. And then if you don't show up, you don't get your money back. The costs were incurred, and they could have had another client fill that spot if you weren't going to come and pay. So it was made available to you. And that was my argument is, well, we can only have 6 kids in that classroom. So we were holding the spot for them. We had the teacher there, so we incurred that cost. We prepared the food for the child and bought it at the grocery store, anticipating their attendance. So the food got thrown away. It was made available, and they did not show up.
I think in the case that you're talking about where you actually have to reserve a time and
Mm-hmm.
someone has not promised, but committed to showing up, then yes, you have provided a service.
Yes. And that was my argument, is that we committed to that they could have that spot. We had 5 kids show up. The 6th one didn't show up. We didn't know they weren't going to show up. They didn't tell us that. In fact, they were telling us we're going to be there, and then they wouldn't show up. So, that was kind of my argument. And they were like, yeah, no, that's totally true. But there was another case that they referenced in the decision, Idaho Power versus, it was somebody. And what they were saying was, if there's, yes, you start with the definition in English of the terms, but also you also have to consider the context of the document in its entirety,
Yep.
which there were a couple other places in the code that talk about having to provide the attendance record. So I provided the attendance
Provide the
record.
name that signed up for that and they were absent. Yeah.
Right. So it was implied that they had to attend.
Right.
But so that's kind of what I learned, that even if there's an ambiguous term, you can't just lean into that and you can't go by the definition. You have to go by all the content. You have to read the entire freaking code book to see if you have a leg to stand on. So
That's interesting. It sounds a lot like mortgage guidelines, because I can get in arguments with underwriters about, this is what, like, if you read this one sentence, that's what it meant, but if you read the whole paragraph, this is what it means.
yeah.
And it's different. They've gotten better at refining it over the years. I mean, it's only been around for what, 16 years now, these mortgage guidelines. The mortgage guidelines.
Oh.
A lot of them only got written in like 2008, 2009.
So yeah, that's costing me $5,000.
So you didn't win the argument?
No, the decision was that, albeit ambiguous, the greater context of the thousands of pages of code imply that the child actually has to attend. So from now on, we're just gonna not accept, not accept that. It's, if you don't show up your first day, you're just unenrolled. We're never going to take that
for those types of enrollees,
huh?
Or is it just for those types of enrollees that are subsidized?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So you give them 1 day, 1 day grace, and then that's it. They're unenrolled. So they have to show up. They just have to, and it's a huge pain in the butt for them to get re-approved. So if we unenroll them, they have to go through the month-long process of getting approved again. So we're actually just going to wield that stick and just be straightforward about it with them from now on.
Interesting. I think it's the right choice. Sounds like it is.
These are typically the type of people who have a tough time. They're paycheck to paycheck if they even are on time with their bills. They're struggling to just be able to make it to the daycare because they don't have enough gas in their car. These are the types of people. So we were trying to do the right thing by, yes, we'll help you. Like, yes, you got to come tomorrow. But they just kind of never showed. They kept saying, I'll be there in an hour. And then they just wouldn't show up.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of what would be small inconveniences for us that could be detrimental to the whole day for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, okay, we talked Grand Canyon. We talked all kinds of other random stuff. We had one other thing we wanted to talk about.
I'm excited to share this with you, what I've learned from this 2 articles I've read about Project 2025.
Yes. Power of the people. Let's go.
So somebody sent me a post from, what's his name, Walter, that major Democrat guy on Instagram and TikTok. Name's Walter. Basically saying that Trump's a liar because he's saying he doesn't know what's in Project 2025, but then somebody who's part of the Heritage Foundation has said that they're in charge of hiring everybody for the Republican nominee. And so I'm like, all right, something's up here. And so I go and look up what's going on. And basically it sounds like the Heritage Foundation is one of these super PACs. They're a political organization that collects money from different donors and has a list of ideas that they want to have put in process. And they lobby for different bills and politicians. And they're not tied to a politician or a party, but because they're created by on these list of foundations or ideals they want to push, they tend to be one or the other, usually not a mix of both. So this one is a Republican super PAC. I heard it was formed by the big oil companies. They've got a bunch of money. They got to put it somewhere. But it's kind of one of those things where there's a loophole where if the oil companies donate a bunch to the Heritage Foundation, then the Heritage Foundation donates to Donald Trump. It doesn't say what oil companies donated to the Heritage Foundation. So you don't really get an accurate representation of who is really behind it. Anyway, so that's what the Heritage Foundation is. It's a political activation group. And they have been in charge of hiring for the White House when an election gets done. And so that what they'll do is they'll build a roster of people that they recommend for each position. They think they have to hire like 2,000 people within a month, something crazy like that. So what they do is they don't wait until their person gets elected. It's like, okay, we're going to select applicants and rank them and give you this database on who we think would work best in this position for you. And so Trump did use them in 2020 to staff his White House, but he was extremely critical of them and how they've done everything. And so he, if you hear about a lot of people who said, Trump was terrible and I can't believe he did this, he's like, I fired that person. And it's because the Heritage Foundation really, gave their application to Trump, and he said, yeah, go ahead and do it. But he didn't vet them himself. He, you can't do that for 2,000 people in 1 month. It's too many. So they vet these people and give them recommendations for this person should work here because they're a Republican, but they don't necessarily align with what Trump thinks. And so when they get in office, they're trying to do their standard procedures for, doing their political stuff. Trump doesn't like it, fires them, and they turn around and they hate Trump. Kind of makes sense. He fired me. He's a jerk. Can't believe he's running for president. Not many people have good things to say about somebody who fired them.
Yeah.
So now the Heritage Foundation, because Trump was so critical of their decisions on who to recommend for his last term, they've redone their entire database collection process and their applicant selection process. And they've not only done it by themselves, but they've actually leveraged the help of other super PACs, other organizations who try to do similar things to make it more streamlined, to make it more aligned with what he's trying to do so they still use him. That is called Project 2025. Hiring, and that's just hiring people is just one of the things they do. They still have to do their whole super PAC thing, supporting these bills, supporting things that push for this narrative or these types of legislations. And one of the major things they do is selecting these candidates. And so they've partnered with a lot of other super PACs to select candidates and do a database scrub and provide this list to Trump and his party when they get elected to, employ the White House. So it's not like they specifically just hire everybody. It's they provide a list of who their recommendation is. Last time Trump was just like, sure, sounds good. First time being president. Now he's like, okay, it's not going to work. And also the Heritage Foundation knows a lot more about Trump and what he's about, how he wants to run things, and they can select people that are more aligned with exactly what he wants, not just aligned with the Republican Party. So it's kind of and Trump denying what's going on with Project 2025 is plausible because it's not like he created it, but they are a Republican, based party. But I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's super complicated.
Yeah. But essentially what they do is they built the article I read, they say they built a LinkedIn for politicians. And then from that database, they can select who to select for what position in the government.
Interesting. I guess I didn't realize that the president had that many appointments. I thought they were just appointing basically their cabinet and that was it, and that everything else was merit-based employment.
Think about how many of those people need assistance or need two assistants, or need someone just to work the phones. They said it was anyone from the Secretary of Defense down to a scheduler, like that many people.
Wow. And these people, there's not room for all. They don't all work at the White House, right?
I don't know exactly where they work, and I don't think they all walk into the White House. But I've never been there. I don't know.
Yeah. How you doing on that brewski?
It's not a brewski. It's a nooner,
or whatever it is. Yeah, it counts as a brewski, dude. Are seltzers not beers? I mean, I think they're made the same.
I don't think they are.
Oh, I thought they were made similarly.
I mean, seltzers are water infused with alcohol and some flavors
and carbonation.
And I guess beer is water infused with wheat and barley. So I guess you could say that's the same, but it takes. I think I would assume it's a much longer process to make a beer than it is because I feel like this is almost like a mixed drink.
Yeah,
you got carbonated water and put some flavor in it, and you're done. Beer takes some time.
True. So you kind of talked through the Heritage Foundation part and how they staff, but and maybe this is my ignorance, but I thought Project 2025 also had like a very clear not motive, but
Like
like a
list of
mission.
legislations they're trying to push.
And they're run by the Heritage Foundation, or this Project 2025 is an initiative set forth by Heritage.
Yes.
And what are, like, I'm sure there's a lot of it to it, but what are the kind of the main points of 2025?
I
And
couldn't tell
is
you.
it
I didn't get that far into it. I just looked into the
okay?
staffing situation.
Okay,
But I
got
will
it.
tell you that I feel like it's, I mean, because Kamala and the whole Democratic Party are saying it's Trump's 2025 Project 2025, but it would be so weird for him to have his own like legislation mix that he wants to push, and then also Project 2025. Because if you go into Trump's website, he's got this thing that's called like what do they call it, like Article 47 or something like that, and that's the list of things that he's trying to push through this presidency campaign. And so that's different than what's on Project 2025.
Yeah.
But the Heritage Foundation does have their own list of legislations they're trying to move forward with.
Okay. Okay. So it's not like it's his initiative and it's just a bunch of liberal BS.
I mean, that's what it seems like to me. But what's funny is that it's on Kamala's website. It says Trump's Project 2025. And Trump is, during the debate said it's not his, and, it's on his website. He's got his own thing.
Yeah. I mean, she wore her colors right on her shirt or whatever the phrase is. I'm almost done with this tall boy.
Agenda 47 is what Trump's thing is called.
I see. Okay. But yeah, when someone asks, that couple asked her, how are you going to control inflation and cost of goods?
Right.
And she didn't give an answer. She just, well, I, was raised in a middle-class family and people who took care of their lawns. I mean, that's somebody who's got no plan, and her only marketing scheme that she has is attack Trump. That's it. She's got no accomplishments. And, I'm trying to be objective with this. Like, her accomplishments aren't actually like positive, right? She does have accomplishments. Yes, she jailed a ton of black people for marijuana. Great. That's a great accomplishment. Great accomplishment, right? But I'm being facetious here. But
she was the border czar, which is now the nation's largest issue.
Right. So she's never, like, that I've seen, and I try to follow some liberal accounts as well as conservative ones to try to find. But all I'm seeing is it's a vibes election. It's not Trump. It's da-da-da-da. But it's like, I don't like Donald Trump either. Right message, wrong messenger. But, I'm just trying to look at, rather than who is he and who is she, it's like the two options.
I almost got an analogy in my head that kind of puts what you're saying, right message, wrong messenger. So name a company that you think is evil.
SeaWorld.
Okay. And then name a competing company that you think is positive. Well, let's just say Arizona, because we were talking about it. We don't really know. We don't know if Arizona is a good place or not. They both house animals. So let's say you're a zoologist or an animal caretaker looking for a job. Arizona has offered you a job. They don't have benefits. They have seasonal hours. They'll pay you $50,000 a year, and you'll get minimal benefits. Don't get anywhere to stay, and there's nothing really to do in Arizona. You also got a job from SeaWorld. They're going to pay you $150,000, awesome benefits, give you everything you need to provide for your family, and they're going to give you a relocation assistance. They're going to help you find a place, make sure you're in a good spot when you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you taking the job from?
Fuck, SeaWorld.
Right. That's kind of the issue. Like, Trump is SeaWorld. I'm not going to let him date my daughter, but he's kind of saying the things that I wish politicians would do and putting in things that I think are going to help the American people. And, as overall character and morality of it, yes, I really wish he was a different person. But I think that he's doing the things that I want.
Yeah. Yeah. For a small business owner too, like us, it's kind of a no-brainer which one's better for us. if you look at purely that.
Right.
Um, but as investors and, adaptable entrepreneurs that we are, it doesn't really matter who's the president. We'll figure out a way to make things work and be profitable. But like when it comes to, I don't know, just the tax advantages and incentives that the government offers, the 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 Democratic Party just doesn't really offer things like that for us. The things that they do kind of inhibits the entrepreneurial spirit and makes us go do something else. So all the things that they want to give away for free or have free programs for, like housing, well, we're going to work on housing, but anything that they do with their type of the progressive policies are just freaking not effective and haven't been in the recent history.
I think that a lot of stuff that I hear Kamala talk about is just more of a socialistic type approach.
Yep.
Where she's saying help the poor people, and the people at the top are going to pay for it. But that really just disincentivizes people to work, disincentivize people to start their own business, do something productive for society.
Yeah.
And I think that's been America's greatest strength is, doing things like having this crazy will or tolerance for putting in crazy work to come up with obscene ideas that end up working and pushing our society forward.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. I want people to be motivated to live. I don't want people to just, be able to live in a 1-bedroom shack and survive.
Yeah.
I want to move forward as a society, not just be okay.
Yep. Couldn't agree more, man.
Vote for Rob.
Vote for Rob. I actually wouldn't be surprised if we ended up in politics of some sort. Dude, I'm having so much fun being on like the PTA, and I'm on the Boise School District's Early Education Curriculum Committee, and like you can have a real impact locally in just small committees. It's a 2-meeting commitment, and we can have a pretty decent impact on our kids' futures with stuff like that. Cool. So I wouldn't be surprised to see one of us run for, like, I don't know,
city council.
Yeah, dude, I'd love to be on city council. Holy shit, that would be so fun. Being able to just deny projects for no reason. And
I would for sure be Ron Swanson. Like that would be
me. What a great show! I'm so glad that they made a show about Bloomington, dude.
Was it Bloomington? They were trying to be.
Yeah. That show's based on Bloomington, Indiana. They just call it Pawnee.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Oh, dude, my bad. I thought for sure you knew that little fact.
Spoilers.
Yeah. No, that's Bloomington, Indiana.
I thought it was like Terre Haute or something.
Terrible Haute.
Yeah.
That poor town and the people from it.
You get a lot of friends from there, don't you?
Yeah, I know a lot of guys from there. Yeah. Sucks to suck. I'm just kidding. It's a high quality place.
Sure it is.
Yeah. A lot of people are leaving Carmel to go there, actually. But yeah, I'm totally joking.
I guess those places are not close together. Like, okay.
Well, Carmel's like top 3 county, like Hamilton County is like top 3 counties in the country to live in.
Yep.
Consistently. Which is funny because I don't know. I don't know about you, I guess, but I did not like Indiana. The outdoors part of it. The people are nice. They have everything you need. It's clean and safe. But I always tell people Boise is just Indy with mountains. So I like it here so much better. But
yeah, I mean, it's Indiana. Like the outside was like go find a creek or a lake, and that's like it.
Go catch a crawdad. Yeah, I don't know. in a dirty creek.
Yep.
I don't know what it was with those creeks. They always stank, dude. You ever play in the creeks behind people's houses or stuff? And just I don't know. There's always like this smell that's like, this water ain't clean, dude. This water ain't clean.
Yeah, fish poop in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So what's on tap for the weekend, brother?
What is this weekend? You know what's funny? Me and one of my friends who's pretty hardcore Democrat, we've been debating a lot. And ever since the debate happened, Kamala recommended we should go to a Trump rally. There's a Trump rally tomorrow, about 2 hours away from me, so I'm trying to convince him to come with me to go. It's like if there's
wait.
ever
Kamala
ever
said you should go to a Trump rally?
during the debate, she says, you know, a funny thing about his rallies, I encourage all of you to go because you're going to see people leave out of boredom early. And that's what she said. I was like, dude, Kamala said we got to go. Let's go.
Oh, does he have his schedule posted online somewhere? I kind of want to go see both rallies just to see the crowd size.
I couldn't find anything for Kamala. She's on a podcast tour right now because she just did like Howard Stern and some other stuff. So I don't know if she's doing like in-person rallies, but yeah, you just go on their website and Trump's they post them very sporadically. It seems strange, but like it seems like he posts these rallies like 2 weeks in advance and then you just show up. And so he's going to be in Coachella tomorrow and we'll see if I end up going, but it's like a 2-hour drive. I wish he was doing one in like Newport. Just 20 minutes.
Yeah. Worth it. You got to go, dude. You saw that at her rally in North Carolina recently?
I did not. No.
It had like 5,000 people there, but 4,400 of them were from Atlanta, bust in. And
oh my gosh.
There was another few hundred from Savannah that were bust in, and then 600 people were tracked to be local.
That's crazy. Why didn't she just do it in Atlanta?
I think she did one there too.
Is it a ploy to make people in Charlotte think that she's popular?
You know, and I haven't looked at this article honestly to see the proof, like the proof, but I think what the point of the article was saying that, you know, she's had 3 or 4 rallies like within the 3, 4, or 5 hour vicinity of that area, but most of the people who come have been to more than one of them. So people are going to multiple rallies. So if you have 5,000 people at each of your 4 rallies in the same area, but 4,500 of them went to at least 3 of them, well, how many people do you really have interested in attending your rally?
I have seen a video of those buses, like where they're just showing up, just rows and rows of buses coming in.
Yeah, it's funny.
If she ever does one around Orange County, let me know. I'll go. Yeah, check it out.
And there's a whistleblower, by the way, talking about they have proof that the ABC gave her the questions in advance and did not give them to Trump.
I think this one's turning into a conspiracy theory because I heard about that, and then like 2 days later, apparently got in like a massive car accident and died.
Oh well, yeah, but the affidavit that was somebody else, but the current whistleblower is still anonymous and has an affidavit signed, but it's been redacted. And that states this and states they have proof, but I think they're trying to stay safe.
She did really well in the debate, so knew what to say in every turn.
Yeah. Difference between prepping and not prepping, I guess.
We'll see.
Cool.
All right. How many more days? We got like a month to the election. We can talk about something else.
Yeah. Oh man. I still don't know who I'm going to vote for.
I got my mail-in ballot and it had RFK on it.
You already sent it?
No, it's sitting in my room. I was going to vote for RFK and then he joined the Trump train.
Yeah.
So now I'm kind of torn. I'm like, he's saying to vote for Trump, but it's tough.
Dude, it's so wild too. Like I was debating with some liberals the other day and they were telling me that they were judging me for liking RFK and they were saying he's insane. He's a psychopath. And I was like, he's a psychopath. I haven't seen anything that would make me think that. And they said, Google the whale story, the bear cub story.
The whale story is totally bogus.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like it was his daughter who said it. The liberal people I was talking to were telling me RFK said, I cut a whale head off with a chainsaw. Well, turns out it was his daughter who said that he did that. But the article where she was quoted saying that, I can't find it. It's not out there.
Right.
In the Town and Country magazine, they don't
But
have it.
he was on an
yet.
interview talking about it, and he had like it was for research. He had permission to go get the whale head and do research on it. It's not like he was like out in the wild just chopping up whales. He had like permits to go do it.
I didn't even see that. Okay, great. I can't wait to find that and send it to them.
Yeah.
And the bear cub story, it sounded like he was just drunk and doing stupid shit. But
I haven't heard that one. I'll look into it.
Yeah, apparently a car in front of him hit a bear. It died. So in the state he was in, it might have been Maryland, you're allowed to pick up roadkill of any kind. If it's dead on the road, you're allowed to take it to harvest the meat so that it's not wasted. So the car in front of him hit the bear, kept driving. So he was like, well, I'll grab it. It's a 60-pound baby bear.
Oh, that's pretty small.
Yeah, or whatever size it was, right? So he was able to lift it, put it in his trunk, and he continued on his way. And he went to he was going to some dinner party, had some wine, probably too much wine. And he's like, I'm leaving my car here and I'm, getting a taxi to the airport. I can't leave this bear in my trunk. So he's like, hey guys, I have a bear in my trunk, So they helped him carry it out of his trunk and they just put it in Central Park because they were across the street from Central Park. So they just put it in the park.
So he wasn't going to be able to take it home, so he put it somewhere else.
Right. He was like, yeah, we probably had too much wine and this probably wasn't a great idea, but this was in the 90s. He's like, so give me a break, And he's like, but there had been a lot, like in the news, there'd been a lot of like bike accidents in Central Park where, pedestrians were getting hit by bicycles. He's like, we found an abandoned bike. So we just like set it next to the bear to look like there was a bike accident. He's like, in the news the next day, they were like pedestrian flees from bike accident scene with bear in Central Park. And it's like, okay, so, and the liberals were making it sound to me like, oh, he killed a bear and then went and ditched it in Central Park. What a psychopath. And it's like, did you even watch the video where he told the story? Like, obviously it wasn't smart and not a great idea, but it was also 1991 and he was drinking wine. So I kind of like him. 1991, bro. Come on, give him a break.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that one. It sounds funny.
But yeah, dude, it's just, and I'm sure a lot of the stuff we see on Fox News or like some of these right leaning, I'm sure they're sensationalized and making Kamala look like a dickhead too. But
it used to be like very obvious which news agency was part of which Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
Or whichever, but now it seems like some of them are kind of flipping.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of them are Republic now, and like Fox News is kind of doing some Democrat leaning news, and so it's like I feel like it's really difficult to kind of decipher which news station is which way and how to kind of know where to filter things.
Yeah, dude, and things that were considered like complete editorializing 10, 20 years ago are like now considered news. Like you hear the word, like I remember at Chatard at high school journalism class, I learned you're never supposed to use the words I think, I feel, or I believe. It's like if you can't prove it with a source, then you don't say it. So
every article is all an opinion now.
Oh
my interpretation
God,
of this.
Yeah, it's all interpretations, and because they're in a race to get stories out first, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a journalism expert, but all right. Well, we've gone over on our time, but for good reason.
One. I think we'll make it up because I think our last two were short. So if you really want to, you can split this episode in two. Listen to half first and half later.
Totally good.
All right. Well, good talking to you. I'll see you next week. Love you, Mom.
You too, man. Love you, Miss T. Bye, everybody. Bob and Weed.